All right, so today we're talking about the installation process for the Jeep JL. This is a pretty big kit. There's 3 pieces for each side, both driver and passenger side. This is a full fender liner kit, unlike the products that we've made in the past. This is a fender liner replacement kit. So the first thing we're gonna do, and you can check the video earlier on the deinstallation of the OEM fender liner. But once you have all that done, the first thing that we need to do in here is we need to relocate the blinker cable. So come up here, pop this thing down. Okay, you take a supplied zip tie. And zip tie it up against this the other wire that's up in here so that it's not flopping around. So you can put it up in there, trim it. Everything else stays where it needs to be. So there's no movement of other pieces or fender components or rivets. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wanna start with the front section first. It's identified by a D on the part itself. These are unbent from us. So what we need to do is bend the product itself so that it fits into the geometry of the fender well. We're gonna start at the top where we have this long piece here. This is going to be a 45-degree bend. This nodule here is going to be a 90 or close to it. This is gonna go back probably about 45. This piece bends back, or sorry, forward at a 45. Then this comes back at about a 40 as well. And these probably about a 40-degree angle there as well. Now you can see how easy I did that. And the material has a great memory here, so you can really move these things around when you start putting it into place. If you need to make adjustments, or it needs to be a little further back or a little further forward, you just move it around and everything will be good. So we start with this piece first. And the first thing we do here is there's a slot up here between the OEM fender and the body of the vehicle. And what we're gonna wanna do is kind of angle it like this, where you wanna get this section back towards the body or towards the frame of the truck. And then we're gonna put it up like that. It's gonna rest on top of the strut tower. And then we're really just gonna bend this thing back so that we get it into position there. And then once it's in position, we kind of move it around. And you can see just like that, all right? Now it's in a really good position. It's tucked in there behind the OEM fender. You can see how it's kind of taken shape. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this thing back behind the body of the vehicle. Then here we're gonna tuck this behind the front section of the truck, just like that. And now you can see it's really coming in line there. So we're gonna wanna get this up. There you go. Feel free to get violent with it. There you go, just like that. So once it's in position there, that line should be, the top line here should really be parallel to the fender line. This 90 goes right up in there. You can see these holes to the frame are fairly well lined up there as well. I shouldn't say fairly, they are lined up. So what we're gonna do now is we can secure this thing into position. So we're gonna need 8mm rivets for this top section here. And that secures that portion to that bracket. Then we're gonna need 7.5 Christmas trees for this section down here. Let's put those in. And the front portion of the fender liner is now installed. So now let's move to the second piece. And this is the rear section, or the back section of the fender liner. The driver's side will have the ARC logo facing out, so will the passenger side, but it's It's more towards the front in this particular example. On this one, we're gonna bend it back about at a 40 degree, and this one forward about 30 degrees. So before we do that, we're gonna take a 10mm socket. We're gonna remove this bolt here. This is a mounting point we're going to use. Save that bolt. We're going to use it here in a minute. So then what we do is we come in here with this piece again, and we slide this back piece in first. We move that cable kind of into that notch that's up in there. And you can see how this thing lines up. So what we're going to do is make sure these rivets that are sticking out of the engine bay go through these particular holes there. And the holes where the two plastic come together are now aligned. So what we do is we take an 8mm rivet, just secure it like that. It's going to stay in position when we get the other ones into position. Okay, down here, lines up there. So we have a fender washer and the bolt that we just took out. Put that back in. Oops. So the top portion here, you're going to want this slice to line up with the with that line that's parallel to the fender as well. Over here, slide this cable through that groove right there, and then make sure that these rivets over here are lined up to those rivets popping out as well. And now this portion is done. So then we grab the last piece here, and this is the last piece to cover up this gap over here on the back side, also going to be marked with a D. This is a pretty aggressive bend right along the bend line. So it's gonna be close to like an 80-degree bend line there. And then at the top, it's gonna come down, and this one's gonna be a 90-degree. So what we do in this particular case is we really focus on this groove line, or this hole here that's a bit of a pill shape. This lines up right here to where there was a rivet, or there is a mounting point there. So what we do is we first start by kind of feeding the top piece up into that gap, and then we make sure that we have the pill shape line up with that bracket that's kind of sticking out from the body there. Once we have that, we take 3 more 8mm rivets, put those into those holes there. Okay, you can see this thing is coming into shape. Okay, so we have 2 more 7.5mm Christmas trees that go in down here. You're going to want to make sure that this thing is, the back section here is on the inside of the body. Which can be a little bit of a tight fit, but it gets there. And once it's there, the rivet holes are perfectly lined up. secure it with the 7.5. Secure it with the 7.5 there. And last but not least, we have this piece which secures to the second piece that we just installed, which goes through a mounting point behind all of this plastic. And we use a long 8.5 two-piece rivet to secure those in. And you are done. And that's it. So you officially have your arc splash guards, fender liner for the Jeep JL. The unique things about this product is it's super durable. One of the big complaints we heard on the forums and across the board with the existing fender liners that are on the market is that they are extraordinarily loud. They rattle, they sound like a rattle can. There's no rattling going on here. It's more of a sound deadening fender liner for aftermarket application. So appreciate your purchase, appreciate your time. Please reach out and let us know if you have any questions. Okay, so we're still working on the Jeep JL fender liners. The driver's side is done. We're moving over to the passenger side. It's a very similar process. There's just a couple things that we need to take into consideration when we're doing the install of the passenger side. The first one is the blinker cable up here stays in position. The reason for that is pulling this thing out, there's really no place for you to attach it. You can't tuck it back up in there. So it's gotta stay there. So the other one is down here. We have another cable. So we do need that mounting point. So what we're gonna do is kind of pop that off. Maybe. I love plastic rivets. Okay. And then we're just gonna leave it there. It's in a safe place. It's not too loose, so it should be fine. So the first step is obviously removing that rivet there, and then once we have kind of a blank slate here, it's the same process as the driver's side. So we're gonna take the front portion of the passenger's fender liner. It's gonna be marked with a P in the top left. On the top section here, we're gonna bend this section back at a 45 degree, right about that. Then we're gonna, this piece here, we're gonna bend at a 90. Here we're gonna bend back, probably about a 45. This is gonna come forward, about a 40, and then this piece is gonna go back almost at a 90 there. And then down here on these pieces here, we're gonna have these fold up slightly, maybe like a 20 degree, and we're done. So the same process that we followed on the front, we're gonna follow on the passenger, on the driver, we're gonna follow on the passenger. So we're gonna start by putting it in kind of horizontally here to get the section of the fender liner on top of the strut tower here. And then we're gonna kind of fold these things up in between this gap between the OEM fenders and the body of the vehicle. And you can see right out of the gate, it's looking pretty good. On the front section here, we're gonna tuck this back. On the very front section, we're going to kind of push this behind the front grille area so that it's nice and tight up in there. And then you can see things are already in position. So now what we got to do is go through and take an 8mm rivet, put that in up top into the into this bracket on the top section here. We got that there. Then we take two 7.5 rivets, push it back, secure it. Holes are perfectly lined up. And you're done with the front section already with the passenger side. Again, this kind of bloodline on the top here should be parallel to the OEM fender or whatever fender you have. It should curve that body line perfectly. So now we're going to move on to the second piece, this is the one with the ARC logo on it. We're going to bend the top section back about a 45 degree. Then you're going to bend this front forward about 30. So we take our 10mm socket and we're going to want to remove the bolt down here. Hold on to that one, you're going to need it in a minute. And then this one goes similarly towards the frame first, and then we push the rear facing section into position. And there's a nodule up here that goes into a nice little crevice in the or a little opening in the body there. So you're going to want to get that up in there, moving this blinker wire out of the way a little bit. And then once we have that into position there, the holes will line up. So we take an 8mm rivet, secure that one first. Then we want to make sure that this thing is in the right position. Sometimes you got to apply a little pressure at the bottom to lift it up. Secure it with your hands. Rivet. You might need to move it around a little bit to get those holes to line up. Rivet. And this last one down here. Rivet. Okay. So it's essentially put in at this point in time, but we need to put that bolt back in along with the supplied fender washer. Try to get this back into position. Okay. Come through with our so it's looking pretty good for now, right? So we've got the fender liner tucked into that, the opening in the body. Again, the line on the second piece lines up perfectly with this groove line that's on the first piece. And now we're ready to move on to the last piece of the fender liner. Again, on this one, pretty aggressive bend on these pieces. And then at the top, it's going to be a 90 degree. Similar process, we've got this long pill-shaped hole here on this particular part. That's going to go into the rivet mounting point that we took out at the very beginning of this process. So what we're going to do is slide this thing in. I get this piece up here into this groove. Okay, we're gonna find the section there. We're gonna wanna make sure that these bottom holes are lined up, and that is a 7.5 right there. 7.5. And again, make sure that this particular piece is on the inside of the body, or else it won't line up. So then what we do is we come up here and make sure that this thing is bent back so that it gives it enough room for this piece to squeeze in there like so. And that's essentially a little gap filler, because there's usually a gap back in there. And then what we do is we take our 8mm rivets and attach the second piece to the third piece. Might need to do something there, but attach to the third piece, secure it, rivet, and then at the top here we have a what are we going to use over there? Okay, so we're on to the last section of the fender liner for the Jeep JL. When we bend these things, this thing's going to be a pretty aggressive bend here. It's almost at a 90 degree, and then the top piece is also going to be close to a 90 degree angle there. So we also have this, very similar to the driver's side, we have this elongated pill shape item that's going to go, or this hole that's going to go into that mounting point where we remove the rivet for that wire. So first thing we need to do is put this thing into position. Again, we want this thing to be on the inside of the body panel here. So let's line up the groove with that mounting point there that's now exposed. We're going to start by putting in the top rivet here to connect these two pieces. So the first one goes in. Second one in. Third one in. Now we have the two pieces, the two rear pieces connected. So what we're going to want to do is feed in this piece into behind the body panel to close the gap. We're going to worry about connecting that to the second piece here in a second. So on the bottom here, we're going to want to make sure that this thing is in position. It's on the inside of the body. You can hear it kind of snap into place there. The holes are lined up. So we're going to take our two 7.5 Christmas trees, put those into position. Make sure they're nice and tight and snug. It's almost done. We have a 8.5mm Christmas tree, where we need to line up the top piece with the second guard that we put in there, the second piece of the fender liner. And then we just feed it through, make sure it's connected in there, and you're done. So we've got the entire fender liner installed for the passenger side. Again, no shaking, no rattling. You know, a chief complaint that we hear a lot from people that have to buy the aluminum fender liners. No painting, everything's black. It's a really nice solution for aftermarket fender liners for the Jeep JL. That's it. Okay, so we're going to do the bend sequence here on the Jeep JL rear bucket. So we're going to start on the passenger side. And the first thing is that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take some of the U-nuts here and we're going to want to slide them into these pockets up here on the top. Okay, so we've got one there. We've got one over here on P3. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Okay. We got another one over here on P4. And these are the mounting locations onto the fender. So we've got 3 U-nuts there. Now you've got 4 pieces here. You got P1, P2, P3, P4. So let's start off with, we got P1, that's our flat surface there. Let's start out with P2. On this particular piece here, we have this triangle down here at the bottom. That's going to be the piece that ultimately connects in up here on the top. So what we're going to want to do is this bloodline here, we're going to want to bend that in. And it's going to, these bends are all going to be really aggressive bends. Similar there, we're going to want that one to go in as well. Right, now we've got those two like so. On the left side here, we're going to want that to go in as well. On the right side, we're going to want that to go in as well. Okay, so now we've kind of got a little bit of a box taking shape there. Now on the top, this is going to be the section that you bolt into on the fender, and these sections go back at a 90. Okay, and then this section in the middle kind of collapses a little bit like that. Okay, all right, so let's set that aside for now. Okay, so let's go to P3. This line here on the right hand side, we're going to go ahead and bend that in. This line over here that goes through the middle, we're going to want to bend that towards us as well. And then this section on the left hand side that's going to attach to the frame or to the fender, we're going to want to bend that back. Okay, so we got a little something like that. Okay, let's go ahead and set that aside. P4, again, let's do this like that. P4, this groove line here, we're going to want to bend towards us. Okay. Now on the top, we're going to want this one. This is going to be the bend back. This is going to be the mounting location into the fender. This line that comes down the center is going to bend towards us. And then this line down here is going to bend it back just a little bit. Okay, so we got most of our bends done there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start putting this thing together. Now what we're going to do is take some 8mm clips. We're going to take P1, P2. I'm going to put them together like so. We're just going to start going through. We're just going to start riveting these things together. Kind of bend that thing towards us, really get some good geometry there. Now let's take P3. Now this piece slides behind, and the top piece here goes behind as well. So it's going to look a little something like that. Let's go ahead and throw a rivet in there. Let's throw a rivet down here at the bottom. Okay, so now we just need to fill these holes. Secure that side. Okay, put that thing in there like so. All right, now let's take P4. Again, you can see how this piece slides behind P1 and in front of that lip there. Let's go ahead and slip one in there. Let's put one down here. Okay, now let's just go and put these other 4 in. And one more. All right. Now, like I say, this stuff is super pliable, super flexible. You can go through and move this stuff around if the bend isn't what it needs to be, or if it's too shallow, too aggressive, you can go and make the necessary adjustments. But that is the passenger side bucket for the Jeep JL. We're going to do another video here on the driver side as there's some configuration differences. And then once we're done with this build template here. Okay, so now we have the driver side pieces for the rear bucket on the Jeep JL, and we're going to do the same thing that we did on the passenger side. We're going to start by taking these U-nuts and sliding them into these pocketed areas. One there on D2. There's 2 of these on D2. Okay, put that up there. D3 on the right hand side. Okay, we've got 1 U-nut there, and then we've got another U-nut on D4. Now, these U-nuts are going to be what essentially secures it to the vehicle around the frame itself. So now we're going to go through the bend sequence to build the bucket. Okay, so we've got D1 here, we've got D2 up top, D3 to the right, D4 to the left. We're going to start with D2, and very similar to the passenger side, we've got this line, this line, this line, and that line. You can see it's the one with most of the holes on it. This is ultimately what's going to secure this thing to the top of the fender liner. And what we're going to do is we're going to bend all of these lines, this one, that one, this one, that one, towards us. And like I said, in the passenger side, it's going to be an aggressive 90. If you can't do this by hand, a great way to do this is on the side of a table for some additional leverage. So that's D2 there looking at us. We've got these lines bent towards us. These top 2 lines are going to go back. Okay, and then we've got this bend in the middle, right? You can see how that kind of takes shape there. All right, so let's move over to D3. D3, looking at us like this. We got this line here. That line's going to come towards us. That's going to attach to D1 there. And then we've got this line here that's going to go back, and that's going to attach to the truck. All right, so something like that. That off to the side. Now we've got D4. This is going to attach to D1, so we're going to go towards us. This section here is going to go back. And some of these smaller ones can be a little tough, so we gotta put a little into it. Like I said before, if they're a problem, doing it on a table is always good as well. And then this side here goes back just a little bit. And then this center line that goes through the middle is going to come at us. All right. So we've got that looking like that. All right. So now, just like the passenger side, we're going to take our 8mm rivets. We're going to start at the top here. Now this D2 goes behind D1. And we're just going to attach it with a rivet on the left hand side, and then let's attach it with a rivet on the right hand side, and then fill in the middle. And once we're done with the bend sequence here and the building of the bucket right on the bench here, then we're going to go and do the install on the vehicle, which will follow these two videos. Moving on. All right, so we got those 4 rivets in. We can bend this thing forward a little bit there. Okay, so now we're going to go over to D3. D3, the bend position that connects to D1 goes behind, and then it goes in front of D2, like that. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and just secure it with a couple of these rivets. I like to hit the corner pieces first because that kind of locks everything in position, kind of stops the movement around of the bucket itself. And then we just go through and hit these. Okay, so we got D1, D2, D3. Now on to D4. D4, this section here goes behind D1 and in front. The top section goes in front of D2. Very similar to the other side. We're just going to secure the corners. Need a few more 8mm rivets. One more. All right. And just go through and make sure that these are still got a really nice 90 bend on them. There we go. Okay. And that's it. That is the bench installed bend sequence for the Jeep JL driver side. Okay, the subsequent video here is going to be the actual installation of this thing. So appreciate your business, and please let us know if you got any questions. All right, so we're on the passenger side rear of the Jeep JL here, and what you guys just watched was the bends, or the bench build of the rear bucket here. This guy's looking a little different. This was a prototype that we put together, but the sequence of events and the sequence of installation is the exact same with this prototype and with the product that you're actually holding in your hands. So once you're done with the bench build, and you've got your bucket here, installation is pretty quick. And one of the things that I'll start off with you guys about here is you do need to remove your fender, and there's a number of videos out there where you can see how these things are removed. It's pretty quick, pretty simple. Once you have the fender out and your fender liner out, we're going to go ahead and start this thing off. So the first thing we're going to go and do is grab 3 of these U-nuts here, and we're going to slide them over these areas here on the vehicle. And depending on where you're at in the vehicle is going to really depend on how these things go on. Some of them like to go vertical, some of them like to go horizontal. Like in this case here, you can see how there's a lot of overspray. Going horizontal there is going to be pretty tough. So you're going to have to either clean some of that out or get creative on the angle. And then over here on this side, it's going vertical, you're gonna probably run into an issue. Sideways looks good there. So as long as we can get them on and you can see through the holes there, you're gonna be good to go. All right, so the next thing you're gonna do is, once you've got your bucket here, you're gonna grab 1 3/4 inch bolt. We're gonna start by sliding this thing back. We're going to start with the bottom and get that thing in the back there, and then you're going to go and kind of wiggle this thing into position, and you're going to want to go behind this, behind the frame or behind the body there, and when you do that, you're going to hear some of these things kind of click into position. So you're going to grab 1 of these 3/4 inch bolts. We kind of like to start with just 1. Let's start at the top. Let's get that thing finger tight or finger threaded in there so it kind of stays into position. Okay. Let's grab a couple more of these guys, get another one in there just to secure it. Okay. Okay, and that's going to allow us to get a little more aggressive here with some of these things once it's kind of locked in position. Okay. These things. Okay. All right, looking good, looking good. Okay, let's get one more in there. Slide it around a little bit. Okay, let's get this top one in. All right, got one more. I'm missing 1 3/4 inch bolt from the back here. Oh, hey. All right, now let's go and tighten these things down. Make sure this thing's going in the right direction. Okay, not all the way. In case we gotta move some things around. This is a 3/4 inch bolt. We've got a 4mm Allen on the end of this thing. All right, one more. One more. Okay. All right, so now that thing is pretty much in there. And now we've got this bottom section here that we need to secure in. And this is when we're gonna take our 1.5" or 40mm 4mm with a 1-inch spacer and a fender washer. We're gonna start in the middle. We're gonna go with the spacer behind, bolt and fender washer on top, and then we're gonna kind of get that thing into position. Might need to get a little creative with some light. Okay, I think I got it. Okay, let's go ahead and finger tighten that thing down. Try to just cinch that up just like that. Nope. Don't have it. And I'm dropping stuff. Okay, so let's get that up. Try it again. Oh, my light turned off. That's why I couldn't see. All right, there we go. Go. All right, that's on there. All right, let's grab another 40mm or 1.5" fender washer and 1-inch spacer. Let's get it back there. Why does that keep turning off? That's annoying. Okay, let's feed it in there. Get it in position there. Go. Alright, let me grab one more 1-inch spacer, fender washer, and a 1.5" bolt. Okay, can I see how that lines up there? Get it in there. Alright. Okay, let's tighten these things up. Alright, and that is it. That is the install of your passenger side rear fender liner on the Jeep JL. We're going to move over to the driver side before we move on to the front of the Jeep JL here. So again, you know, super sturdy, sound deadening, no more aluminum rattle can there. You guys are going to love this stuff. So hold on, we'll get to the other side. All right, so now we're on the driver's side of the Jeep JL, and we're going to walk through the fender line or the rear fender liner installation sequence here. And again, very similar to the driver's side, you're going to have to watch the bend bucket bench assembly of this set first. You're going to need to build this thing out. Hope you guys enjoy Legos. I did growing up, hence the reason why these things look the way they do. And we're going to go and install the kind of finished product there. So you got to remove your OEM fender, your OEM fender liner, and we are going to avoid this this mounting point here. Point is, you got a fuel line coming through here. It's going to be pretty tight in there for that particular item. Very similar to the driver's side. This goop here, kind of the seam glue here with these on these vehicles. This stuff is all over the place. You can see it up here. There's really, sometimes it's somewhere, sometimes it's other places, sometimes it's a little thicker, sometimes it's a little thinner. So you really, when you're going to put these U-nuts on, you got to figure out kind of what works best for you in your particular situation. Sometimes you got to clean these things up a little bit. Sometimes you got to remove some of that goop. Sometimes you got to put these things on sideways, or you got to put them on vertically. And on this particular vehicle here, they seem to go on best horizontally there. So we'll go ahead and get that thing on there real quick and try this way. That's better. All right, perfect. So it really doesn't matter how it goes on there, right? You're really just creating a surface for you to mount the bucket into. All right, so once you've got your completed bucket there after the bench install, we're gonna go ahead and install this. And the sequence is very similar to the passenger side. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of work this thing up. You're gonna start by going back on the vehicle like this first, and then you're going to work this thing up into position. Now, like the passenger side, we're going to want to just get one of these bolts in first, just to try to get some type of leverage there, so that we don't have to continuously hold this thing into position. So let's just get one bolt in. All right, that's kind of close. Hopefully that holds. And then let's get another one in over here. Let's get this thing kind of finger tight into position. Let me grab the ratchet. All right, that's looking good there. So now we got a little, these things are a little, we got some grip in there now. That's good. All right, so now we can get a little more physical with this stuff and get it into position. Now that we've got a little more, got these things biting in. Okay, so down here we're gonna go towards the rear of the vehicle. We're gonna get that finger tight in there, and then we've got one more point in there. All right, we're gonna go and get a little physical with that guy. Ooh. Already cut my glove. All right. Maybe what? All right, so we got this last guy up here. And you can grab it down here at the bottom and give it a little persuasion as well. Okay, so we got that guy. Let's see. Go the right way. There we go. All right, looking good there. All right, so let's go and just tighten these things up. and that thing is in there. So we've got 2 more mounting locations down here that we need to work with. Very similar to the driver's side. So we're gonna go and grab, or the passenger side, excuse me. I'm gonna grab an 1.5 inch, and on this side we're gonna use 1/2 inch spacers. I'm gonna go through like so. And you know, you can lift this thing up just to get it into that position there. Okay, get the thing kind of finger tight. Grab your 4 mil. All right, looking good there. Grab 1 more of your 1.5 inch and your 1/2 inch spacer with a fender washer. Gonna filter it, get it in there. All right, let's go ahead and tighten that up. All right. Okay. These are all tight. Okay. All right, so that is the install of your Arc Splash Guard driver's side rear fender liner on the Jeep JL. Now, putting your rear fenders back on, I'm gonna give you guys a screenshot of the plastic clips to remove. Obviously, these holes here are being used by our mounting by our hardware. So you're going to want to remove any of the plastic clips that would go into these mounting locations. Again, I'll show you guys a graphic here. Now, if you get to a point where you remove the white clip, you can also send one of these one of our bolts through the plastic of the fender itself in replace of the white clips, and just cinch this bolt right onto the body instead of using the white plastic clip. So yeah, it's definitely an option if you kind of run out of mounting locations there. But anyways, that's that. I'm going to move on to the front here and get going.